Everything going on in LA in under 60 seconds. All right, on Saturday, Democrat Assemblyman Jose Luis Solache sees ICE agents going to their office. And he goes on social media and starts broadcasting live. He doesn't know what they're doing, but starts to get a crowd together near where these ICE agents work. Suddenly, these ICE agents start coming under attack by residents. They're throwing rocks, yelling at them, profanity, as they try to leave their own office. That escalates. Soon, cars are burning on the streets, chaos ensues, and at 8:09 p.m., Governor Gavin Newsom says the federal government is sowing chaos so that they can have an excuse to escalate. This is not the way any civilized society behaves. I don't think the timeline works for that. Tune in tonight to hear the whole thing. All right, guys, I hope you had a great weekend. Oh, wow. What a weekend it was. So much to get through. I thought we would just be talking about Elon today. I mean, that's the easy one to get through. Holy smokes. I want to talk to you real quickly today before we get into an amazing discussion about what happened with Simone Biles attacking out of nowhere, without evidence, Riley Gaines. I mean, I don't, and Penny Nance from the Conservative Women for America is going to join us to break it down because this is fascinating to me. It's literally like something happened to Simone and she just decided to go after her, but I think that there might be more to this. So let me kind of break down Elon, Abrego Garcia, Terry Moran, what's going on in LA, then Terry Moran. So much to get through. So let's just start. And by the way, what a week. What a week. Emmy Award-winning journalist Cheryl Atkinson is going to be here. I want to talk to her about the coverage of so many things because if you ever catch her show, she is like a hardcore investigative reporter who has broken so many stories at big pharma. Like she's on the tip of the spear. I got a lot. Let's just leave it at that. I got a lot to ask her. And then Newt Gingrich, he's always amazing. Linda McMahon from the Department of Education, she's going to be with us. An amazing panel with Batya Ungar-Sargon, Caroline Downey, Tony Cat. I mean, what a week. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. All right, so let's just start on a high note. Elon Musk. I'm wondering where this thing's going Friday. And Elon starts deleting tweets. And then last night he puts up a flag emoji tweet to J.D. Vance's tweet about the president showing leadership in LA. I feel like this is a bunch of bros, a bunch of guys, and I don't mean to make this sexist, but this is what it really is. Two guys who went too far. Neither's going to apologize, by the way, and it would be Elon. They would have to. They're just going to pretend it kind of didn't happen, take the temperature down, and then they'll see each other at like the reunion in a year and be like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Elon will come back slowly. They will never talk about it again. It shall never be spoken of. But I think we're done. I think Elon realized that this was not a smart move to go after President Trump. People were on his side, and it was just baseless and stupid. So thank goodness that Elon saw the light, that everyone took the temperature down, because we need everyone focused. Another big thing that, I thought we'd talk about as the weekend developed is Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man. You know him. He came back. Now, I think this was actually a very smart political move. So they flew him back, and Pam Bondi immediately indicted him. I mean, it was insane. And they are the grand jury indicted him on trafficking, undocumented immigrants, and I think there's a minors charge as well. So Democrats now have to decide, are you still with this dude? Because so far they are. And it's kind of embarrassing. They're literally standing by him. But I actually think that the Trump administration called their bluff. And this is where the Democrats went too far. I wrote a column on this last week in my SeanSpicer.com. You can go check it out. The Democrats are now the party of siding with criminals and lawlessness, vandals and destruction. The Trump administration is for law enforcement, law and order. The idea that they're cheering for this guy to come back, and now suddenly they're like, "Oh, I don't know who he is. What's he charged with?" Like a grand jury in Tennessee indicted him of these things, and this is who the Dems are for. So let them go through the process, but I think we've kind of exposed them for who they are. I don't think that they thought the president would bring them back. So they did, and they showed that, like, okay, yes, they went and presented President Bukele of El Salvador and said, hey, could you help us? He is a citizen. You have the right to keep him. But the president said, sure, I'll send him back for you guys. And now the Democrats don't know what to do. They literally jumped the shark on this one. They thought that they had him, the due process argument. Okay, great. The indictment's very clear. Now you know where they stand. And I cannot believe they haven't backed off yet. It's unbelievable. All right. I want to get to this LA thing, because if you thought Abrego Garcia was misplayed politically, you hear me say all the times that issues have two components, the policy and the politics. Sometimes you have one. You have a great policy, but the politics of it are hard, difficult. Or vice versa. Good politics, the policy is bad. This was the culmination of both at the right time. The Trump administration is killing this issue in a good way. Like, that's a good thing. It is unbelievable, but I just want you to caution, despite what you hear, all the noise, all the rhetoric, listen, guys, this is not as bad as it seems. In fact, it's really just people having fun. I mean, at least that's what the media is telling us. Listen.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
Okay, you got to be careful when you go out and watch people have fun just burning cars. That's you know what? I wish I had known that earlier in life. Because when you're going out having fun burning cars, you know, you got to be careful. And I appreciate those guys at ABC giving us the smart warning, right? If you're going to go out there and watch people have fun by burning cars, be careful. The media is so smart. I mean, seriously, like, after how much gaslighting do they think they can continue to do after what's happened the last several years? Issue after issue. A Maryland man, a Russia hoax, COVID. What the heck? I mean, this is getting out of control. I know I should never say this, but it's getting too easy. These guys think that we don't have eyes and ears. We're watching this stuff go down. All right. But because the mainstream media says stupid things like that, I want to give you a timeline about how this happened. Because they won't. This is actually, by the way, the account of the LA Times. So when I tell you this, understand that even the media can't lie about the timeline. There's an assemblyman in California. His name is Jose Luis Solache, I think. He represents the area that includes where this whole thing kind of really went down. And this is where it all starts. This Democratic assemblyman, he's going through his neighborhood. It's called the Paramount area, okay? And he sees ICE agents. What he thinks, and he watches them, and he follows them. And then he starts streaming on Instagram saying, I don't know what they're doing or where they're going, but I want you to know. This is horrible, he says. I'm literally shaking. I don't know what they're doing inside their own facility, by the way. They went to their work. Okay, so these ICE agents go to their office, and he says, I don't know what they're doing inside, but I mean, why are they in Paramount? The community is coming out strong to show they are not welcome in our community, he says. Whose parents, by the way, immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico. No in me districo, not in my district. That's what he posted. So that's not my Spanish, that's his. But anyway, he sees that these agents are now trying to get out. As the crowd grew, this is the LA Times, not Sean Spicer. As the crowd grew, sheriff's deputies were deployed to block off a perimeter on the east and the west. Protesters shouted at the deputies, asking why they're helping. Why are you helping these federal agents? Go to their office, you nut jobs. The crowds began to form. Around noon, tensions grew as the agents attempted to clear the way for Border Patrol to leave the business park. So the bad federal agents are trying to leave. And then, this is them, the LA Times. Protesters followed them, throwing rocks and other objects. Okay, just so we're clear, one man smashed the block and spread the broken pieces on the road. Farther west along Alejandra Boulevard, a crowd was gathered behind the perimeter set up. By 7 p.m., 100 protesters had gathered on the other side, where some were lobbing rocks and bottles at LA County Sheriff deputies. They set at least 3 fires in the area, including a car that burned in the middle of the intersection. Replay. Federal agents go to their office. A Democratic Assemblyman says, hey, where are these guys going? I'm going to film it and get a crowd to gather. And then they start attacking them. Just so we're clear how this all went down. And by the way, you'll see a pattern in a lot of these videos. Not the American flag, the Mexican flag. These people aren't even cheering for us. So when you hear the Dems talk about citizens and our rights, which country are they referring to? Then at 8 o'clock, Gavin Newsom says the federal government is sowing chaos so they can have an excuse to escalate. That's not the way any civilized country behaves. What? They didn't, you guys started it. You grew the crowd in and you guys went after the agents. This isn't it. And then Trump starts to call in the National Guard to protect federal agents. So let's get this straight. Troops are protecting federal agents doing their job to keep the federal government safe, to enforce our laws. And it's Trump's fault. And by the way, then Gavin Newsom goes off on Pete Hegseth because he activates or puts on standby some Marines. Yeah. Does this look peaceful, by the way? Take a look at some of this stuff. This isn't peaceful. These people are attacking federal agents. It's unbelievable. So I just want to be clear on here. ICE was doing their job. This is the mayor, by the way, and these Democratic people encouraging people to protest. They're encouraging them. Here is a Democratic member of Congress, by the way. She's a Democrat. And this is what she's saying to ICE.
ICE, get the f out of LA so that order can be restored.
Yeah, get the F out. I mean, how dare you do the job of getting criminals, et cetera, out of the country? And then here's Karen Bass, by the way. She's the mayor of LA. This is what she has to say in the midst of all this. Take a listen.
We are going to fight for all Angelenos, regardless of when they got here, whether they have papers or not. We are a city of immigrants, and this impacts hundreds of thousands of Angelenos.
Okay, just listen to the language, because again, this is where they're gaslighting you. We're all immigrants to some degree, except if you're a Native American. This has nothing to do with the immigrants. This has to do with people who follow the law and those who break it. Full stop. Have papers, don't have papers. Come on, give me a break. Do you ever understand that all these people come down on the side of people who break the law, not people who enforce the law? And by the way, our good friend Kamala Harris, she put out a statement last night, and this is, I think, the first time she's really put out anything major since she left. And she starts talking about she's standing with our immigrant neighbors. Our immigrant neighbors, because these people are throwing rocks, waving Mexican flags. These aren't our neighbors. My neighbor doesn't do that to me. My neighbor doesn't throw rocks at me and wave the Mexican flag. I don't really care what flag you put out. But by the way, if you're going to talk about deporting ICE, you're in our country illegally. You're not even fighting for our rights. These aren't citizens. These aren't neighbors. Neighbors don't do that to somebody else. It's unbelievable how this whole thing went down. I'm going to have a lot more to say on this week. We got so much more to break down. But one other thing happened yesterday, and I think it's tied to this. At 12:06 a.m. on Saturday night, Terry Moran from ABC, just remember the time, 12:06 a.m., goes on a diatribe about Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. And this is what he wrote on Twitter. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he's one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's the interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds, plural, are his spiritual nourishment. He eats hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his only hatred is a means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. Now, I'm just saying this without evidence, as the media would like to say. It's 12:06 a.m. This is all going on in LA. I'm just saying, maybe, just maybe, Terry had a good Saturday night. Do you know what I'm saying? Because at 12:06 a.m., I mean, I've said and done some kind of stupid things or some crazy things, but I'm just telling you, Terry Moran, 12:06 a.m., goes on a diatribe like that. Something I think he had a very good Saturday night, or not so good. But ABC suspended him. By the way, no comment from ABC News. Zero, nada. CNN broke that news. They didn't say why or for how long or whatever. By the way, I believe Jake Tapper is going to end up coming out with a new book about this, and he's going to call it Original Sin 2, ABC's decline, its cover-up, and their disastrous hiring choices. I've got that on good authority. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how this is going down. The White House obviously going out about this. He got seen by 240,000 people before it got taken down. I mean, dude, this is crazy. And the media is out there trying to defend him because Stephen Miller fired back about how this is all like, this just reveals who these guys are. And Chuck Todd, you remember him? He used to be on Meet the Press. And Chris Liza are all like, but that's not how all of us are. I mean, dudes, you guys felt a little guilty, didn't you? Because it is kind of how you all. Terry just said the quiet part after drinking. What? Out loud. That's what happened. And it's unbelievable. And ABC, I cannot believe they got away with it. John Carl, the JV host of This Week yesterday, didn't have time to even discuss it or to mention it. But you notice that ABC, no one's calling them and asking them for a comment. No one is calling asking for a comment. How insane is this? I just cannot believe it. All right, as I said, we've got a heck of a week coming up for you. Newt Gingrich is here, Shell Atkinson, the award-winning journalist, Linda McMahon, amazing panel with Batya Ungar-Sargon. And today, Penny Nance is going to help break down this fight out of nowhere that Simone Biles comes after Riley Gaines saying that she is hurting the trans community. But before I get to that, because she's amazing, I want to tell you about a great longtime buddy of mine. You know who I'm talking about if you've been watching the show, my buddy Leo Grillo. As a dog rescuer 3 times, I love the work that Leo's done. He rescued a Doberman named Delta ages ago, and that became like a mission for him. And he took that and now runs Delta Rescue. And if you go to deltarescue.org, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. These videos are totally moving because it was out of nowhere. It's the world's largest no-kill sanctuary. Again, I always catch myself. I want to say shelter because that's where you adopt a dog. This isn't about adopting or moving dogs. He takes in abandoned, rescued, malnutrition, abused animals of all sorts, dogs, cats, horses, and takes care of them for life. For life. He's not trying to find them a new home. I cannot believe the amazing work that Leo Grillo does at Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you'll see the videos. You'll be as moved as I was. I personally made a contribution because they don't have any USAID grants, government funding. This is all Leo. He does all the hard work at Delta Rescue, and then he has to raise the money. And it's all because of animal lovers and viewers of like me and who love this thing. If you're an animal lover or just love the idea that someone like Leo Grillo is doing this without any government help, then go to deltarescue.org and consider a contribution. And if you go to the site, you'll see that tab that it says estate planning kit. Maybe you have an old 401k, a stock, something that you could talk to your financial advisor about now and getting some tax benefit. But we need to continue this, the great work of this for generations to come. So please go to deltarescue.org and consider a contribution. Thank you for that as much. This month, guys, I got a big announcement. Tax Network USA is proudly celebrating our nation's birthday. You know, it's 250 years. Big celebration this weekend. They're going to honor the resilience, the freedom, the financial independence. And to mark this occasion, they're giving everybody 10% off all their services through July 4th. So you know what I've said. You've heard me say this before. If you're someone who has back taxes, unfiled taxes, this is your financial incentive to deal with it now. Make it like your mid-year resolution. The taxes were due April 15th. The IRS, I've told you this before, never try to go on against any government agency, particularly the IRS by themselves. These guys have 5,000 liens a day that they file. Washington needs money. The swamp needs to be fed. But there's good news. Tax Network USA, I think, are the best in the business at advocating for you. It's absolutely free to talk to them. No cost, 100% free consultation. And these guys know what they're doing. They are the best in the business. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients, and they have a preferred direct line in the IRS. That means they know who to talk to and who to stay away from so that they can be your best advocate. But trust me, I don't think any agency of the government you want to go up against by yourself. And these guys are the best in the business. Your consultation is always a free. Get ahead of the problems and save 10% right now by giving the folks at Tax Network a call, 1-800-958-1000, or go to tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. All one word, no spaces, tnusa.com USA.com and then /Sean Spicer. And I'm telling you, you get 10% off through all of their servers as part of their big birthday celebration. We're 250 years right now, and Tax Network USA is trying to help you stay in the good graces of this amazing country. TNUSA.com /Sean Spicer. All right. I want to introduce our great guest today, Penny Nance. She's the CEO of Concerned Women for America. They've been at the tip of the spear fighting for women's rights. And she's going to tell us about this confrontation from Simone Biles against Riley Gaines. Here we go. Penny Nance, welcome back to the show. Always great to see you.
Great to be on, Sean. Thanks for having me.
You know, you guys at Concerned Women for America have been at the tip of the spear fighting for women and women's rights for so long. And when this issue between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles came up the other day, I was like, all right, I want to get Penny Nance's take on this. Let's just I want to walk through the timeline. And if I get this wrong, because you know how tweets are, sometimes you don't get the right timestamp, whatever, just tell me I'm wrong. But basically, this is how I saw this thing unraveling. Riley was tweeting at a girls softball team who won the championship because they got a guy on the team.
That's right.
And she basically says, okay, well, that's not that crazy when your star player is a boy. Okay. She makes that very clear. This is a near and dear issue to Riley Gaines. We all know that. Like, this has been a big deal. She was an all-star swimmer. And then out of nowhere, like when I say out of nowhere, it's like she wasn't, didn't name check her, didn't whatever. Simone Biles, the gymnast, starts taking random shots at Riley Gaines. And this is what she said. She said, "You're truly sick, all of this campaigning because you lost a race," which, claiming that she lost this swimming race in college. "Straight up sore loser. You should be lifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feels safe in sports. Maybe a transgender category in all sports, but instead you bully them." And then Simone Biles ends this, Penny, by saying, "One thing's for sure, in no one's sports is safe with you around." Is Riley Gaines the problem?
Oh my gosh, what happened to sweet little Simone Biles, right? I mean, and you're right. Concerned Women for America was tip of the spear ahead of this. In fact, in the meet, the NCAA swim meet, when Riley Gaines swam against Leah Thomas, and of course Leah Thomas is a biological male, 6'2", huge, was beating everyone. Concerned Women for America and our Young Women for America chapters were doing a rally and a press conference outside saying this isn't fair. So we've been on this for about 7 or 8 years, even before other people understood what a threat it was going to be to women's sports. And since that time, we're sad that we were right, but we were, and it spread to everyone. The media's favorite thing is to say, "Oh, you're making this up. This won't happen." And we're like, yes, it will. It's going to spread. And so you just mentioned a case with the softball team. We just had a California case in which a young man won the 2 gold medals long jump in the California state meet and beat all the girls. And so once again, women shockingly, right? I mean, who could have thought it, that a man who's bigger, stronger, has better oxygenated blood, bigger lungs, bigger heart, could possibly beat women? In fact, Simone Biles would not have had her gold medal if she'd had to compete against a man.
I want to go through this, Penny Nance, because I want people to walk through. I want to walk through the timeline because I think you're absolutely right. But Simone Biles then comes back to tweets back again. I don't know what was wrong. Something was wrong, I think. And I'm not trying to, talk out of school or I don't know anything. And I'm not trying, but I mean, for Simone Biles to randomly go off on this, something was wrong. So she tweets back at Riley, "Bully someone your own size," which would ironically be a male. And I was like, okay, are you trying to say she's a dude? Like, that's kind of odd. But then here's the kicker. Riley Gaines responds to her in video, and I want to play the audience the clip of Riley Gaines responding to Simone Biles. It's actually like 4 minutes long. I only want to play a clip, Penny, because she covers a lot of this, all these things, and then I want to get you to respond because here is Riley Gaines responding to this out of the nowhere pot shot that Simone Biles takes at her. Take a listen.
Yesterday, Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, the best of the best, bar none. There is no one else even remotely in her league in women's gymnastics. I guess in an attempt to be inclusive and virtuous, decided to sell out all women and girls who have dreams to achieve and to succeed, and to specifically personally attack and body shame me. She tweeted this out of the blue, like this came out of nowhere, and she said, Riley, me, you're truly sick, all of this campaigning because you lost a race. First of all, if she's insinuating I lost to a man, I've lost several races in my career, duh, that's part of being an athlete. But if she's saying I lost to a man, that's factually incorrect. We tied, besides the point. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports. Let me get something straight. It's my job. It's the women's job. This is what Simone Biles is saying. It's the women's job to find a way for the men's feelings to be validated, for their identity to be affirmed. That's not my job, actually, at all. So to say I should be doing this is insane. If she wants to use her platform to uplift men and women's sports, then by all means, but it's certainly not my job, and I don't believe it's the job of any woman to do this. She goes on to say, but instead you bully them. One thing's for sure, no one in sports is safe with you around. I can't even make sense of that last part, actually. Then out of the blue, she tweeted this. Bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male, which is hilarious, really for two reasons. Number one, she's acknowledging there are differences, like physiological, biological differences between men and women in saying this. Secondly, I'm 5'5", which might seem like a giant to someone who's like 4'7", 4'8", but I'm pretty standard size for a woman. I guess like relatively muscular, right? Being an athlete, I would imagine Simone would understand that, but I weigh like 135 pounds, 5'5", of pretty much pure muscle. And again, if anyone would understand that, you would think it's Simone Biles, a woman who has historically been scrutinized for having a very muscular, masculine-looking body. She was scrutinized to the point she did this whole body positivity campaign. Then she has the nerve to say that I look like a man. And not to mention, this is a woman who has been incredibly brave in calling out and witnessing the horrific sexual abuse that she and hundreds of other female gymnasts faced at the hands of one sexual predator, that predator being Larry Nassar. In the same breath, believing that vulnerable women should be forced to strip down naked in front of men in locker rooms so long as it makes the man feel happy. If Larry Nassar came out as trans, would Simone think it's responsible or safe for him to be housed in a women's prison? To be very, very clear, I could care less what Simone Biles says about me. I'm a very secure person. I know I'm on the right side of history. I'm married, so if she wants to say I look like a man, I literally could care less. The most heartbreaking part about this, for me, is the platform that she has and the amount of young girls who look up to her. That she just, in a blink of an eye, sold out to appear to be virtuous.
So that's the thing. You know what I loved, Penny? The level of class at which she responded. Like if it's me, I'm a petty Irish guy. Like I'm going right back at you. But she sort of says, you know what? This woman is in a class by herself athletically. Yeah. She has a ton of people that admire her. Like I just the way that Riley gains the poise and dignity and an actual sort of logic that she deconstructed the argument to me was telling. And I love the fact that she gets out there and says, you know, this is who I by the way, I do love the fact that she says, oh, by the way, I didn't lose to Leah Thomas. You tied.
She did tie. Yeah, she did. But she wasn't allowed to hold the trophy. They gave the trophy to the man, which is a whole nother story. But no, I mean, honestly, that whole thing it's embarrassing for me to hear Simone Biles, who I really had a soft spot for, and just I think she was so courageous in coming out against Larry Nassar, who, by the way, had complaints against him. But James Comey was the head of the FBI during, you know, that period of time, 2013 to 2015, and nobody was looking. Finally, Donald Trump becomes president, and guess what? Suddenly DOJ's interested. So just a little history there. So I was really appreciative that Simone Biles bravely took it on, as she well should have. He was a predator.
Yeah.
All those women were so unsafe. And so I would think that she would have sensitivity to the very thought that a man in a woman's locker room, women who did not consent, as Kylie Allons, one of our young women forum America members has publicly testified to. She was at that same meet and had to go into change in a closet because she didn't want to have to change in front of Leah Thomas. How's that fair? How's that right? But I just feel like Simone Biles has set women back a couple of decades with this. I mean, not besides the fact that everything she's saying is wrong, the fact that she's coming after another woman. I thought the idea of feminism was to help other women, being so personal. Have you seen Riley Gaines? She's absolutely beautiful. She's very feminine. I mean, like, if anybody that knows her is laughing at what she said, but just spiteful and petty and wrong. But I have a theory of what's behind all of this, Sean. And
gimme. Let's
and
go.
it's a theory. I don't know for a fact, but you'll remember that Simone Biles also came out as being pro-abortion. After the Dobbs case came out very stridently. She did. Sweet little Simone Biles, American sweetheart, has turned into a leftist. That's what's happened. And when you start to look through, it's the old saying in Washington, Sean, as you well know, follow the money. If something doesn't make sense in Washington, if it doesn't make sense, you follow the money. And so I started to look to see who is she repping these days. And not shockingly, it's Athleta. It's workout wear.
Yeah.
It's a very leftist company. They're owned by the Gap, which is a very leftist, DEI, LGBTQ, all the things, company, and United Airlines, and also Oreo, which is also a company that's very leftist company. Oreo, I know.
You're a gymnast that's in like amazing shape and you're rep by Oreo.
I'm not hating on her for that. I love me some Oreos, but regardless.
I don't see anyway, that's a whole nother.
I'm just thinking to myself,
like I can see a fitness company being like, who's a good match? Oreos and Simone Biles.
Yeah, we want to prove that you can eat Oreos and look like that. That's the whole plan, I guess. But I'm just saying, like, I have to wonder if part of the deal of signing on for these companies is you have to toe a certain party line on these left-wing social issues. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because this is kind of new thing, except that she has also lost track of normal people. She seemed so accessible when she was a young athlete, like all these things. Now what you see is her filming herself on private jets, and she's in a class on her own with, the 1%. And, I don't think she understands how like normal Americans think and the things that American moms are worried about right now, and how hard female athletes have to work. I mean, has she forgotten about that? How difficult it is coming up, and the level of just how hard you have to work, willing to get up at dark 30 every day, get to the gym, get to the pool, everything that these young women do. And by the way, this is Title IX month. President Trump and the White House has recognized it as not surprisingly, as a time. I know everybody wants to say it's Pride Month, but let's recognize this is when Title IX was signed over 50 years ago by Democratic women who, by the way, pushed this bill. Patsy Mink, who was a congresswoman from Hawaii, was behind this bill. And now she's turning over in her grave that they are somehow pro-woman, it's pro-feminist to allow men and women's sports. Like, people don't get it. Even many of the women who are not conservative women, Women's Liberation Front is a group of women that CWA has worked with on this issue. They don't get it. So I think that Simone Biles has lost her footing, has lost really sight of who bring her to the party, the people that have supported her, and really what women athletes need is they need a level playing field, and they don't need men in their locker rooms.
100%. I want to get to Title IX in a second. But before I do, you alluded to this. Simone Biles didn't look at her previous comments and tweets or whatever, because in 2017, she said, good thing guys don't compete against girls or he'd take all the gold medals. I mean, it's funny how, to your point though, it's interesting how I agree with you. By the way, brilliant observation on the money. I always say this in politics, and you're absolutely right, because it's true in culture as well. But this is the thing, is that it's so funny how she didn't even go, gosh, I can't say that because in 2017, October 2017, I did say something about, hey, good thing guys weren't in there. It's almost like if you're on this side, they were like, oh, don't worry about it. All is forgiven. And Riley called her out on it and said, oops, you don't hate it when your past self completely undermines your current nonsensical argument. How has 2025 Simone reconciled with the fact that 2017 Simone was a truly sick bully by her own standards? I mean, I just, the funny part about it is in any other scenario, Penny, people would be saying Simone Biles criticized Riley Gaines despite her previous comments. And yet it wasn't, no one else except for people on the right are bringing this up.
Oh, you know that, of course. I mean, there's two standards always. We can never get it wrong. Sean, you can never get it wrong. If you get it wrong one time, like they never let it go. I can never get it wrong. But the other side can make mistakes all the time. They can be sloppy with, their statistics, all the things. And so I check and recheck, and I know you do too. But Simone Biles forgot to check her old tweets, and that's probably what she did believe, but suddenly followed the money. She's in a whole different class system where it's cool to, support the trans and fly around in private jets. And by the way, I've got that great contract with Athleta, and that's her world now. And I'm sorry to see it. I don't respect that. I thought she did an incredible job as a gymnast. She's a world-class athlete.
Yes.
And has had a great career. I just wish she would, she climbed the ladder. I just wish she wouldn't pull it up behind her.
Okay.
Other young women coming behind her deserve better than what she's giving them right now.
Beautiful, because J.K. Rowling, the author, tweeted exactly. She said, high-achieving women who pull the ladder behind them are owed no fealty from other women. You can be a useful idiot for male cosplayers and cheats, but you can fight to ensure that girls who follow in your footsteps have a fair shot. You can't do both. And that's the thing, Penny, is that it's like people paved the way that Simone Biles could have a category recognition as a woman in a category by themselves, right? And now she's basically saying, now that I've got all these records and I've got all these endorsements, I'm going to allow dudes in here so that there's quite, to me, that's the thing, is it's like, I actually think it's a selfish thing.
She's not the first, but Megan Rapinoe in soccer. Like, do you not care about all the women coming after you? They don't care. They made it, and that's all, that seems to be all they care about.
But why, since you guys have been in the fight for so long and do this kind of work on a day-to-day basis, on this Title IX stuff, women like Democrat Patsy Mink, Congresswoman, as you mentioned, and others, fought and said, we need Title IX because the men are getting all the money, all the opportunities, all the scholarships.
That was it. It was all about the money. They got everything.
The irony of this, Penny, is insane. They're basically like a bunch of dudes are coming in and saying, okay, now that we got a level playing field, we'll go over to your field too.
And they get all the scholarships, just like before. It goes exactly back to the past. And by the way, if we do create a whole new section for trans athletes, they also will eat up the money, that little bit of money that women get. There's lawsuits going on right now against the NCAA because of how poorly the women athletes are treated. Their locker rooms are substandard. Everything. The women always got the leftovers. When I was a kid, even like in school growing up, the women athletes got whatever was left over. The boys always got the better locker room, the better uniforms, whatever happened. And so Title IX was just to make sure that women had an ability to compete.
But where are the women? Where are these? Why did the same women who fought for this now stay silent or advocate? Honest to God, I can't imagine, to your point about Patsy Mink rolling over in a grave, where are the women right now that are like the Me Too movement and all this, that fight for women's rights, equality, protections, and then say, shh, 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 shh. Don't worry about it. Like, I don't understand how you can square that circle, right? I just don't. I don't understand.
I think, again, it has to do with money. I think it has to do with advocacy groups that get so much money because you have to have a victim, right? It's good to have a victim that you can point to. And so the new victim du jour is transgender people that are transgender. And so there's all the DEI training, all the money that is around that, I think goes into the coffers of the organizations who should be on our side for this.
What about flipping the table though? What if like Concerned Women of America said, we're going to raise money and go after Athleta and others and say, you're anti-woman, right? In other words, these guys, I still don't get like the corporate angle.
It's not feminist.
Like, huh?
It's not feminist. The people who say they're feminist.
I mean, I would have, can you imagine, listen, I mean, because most of these companies, by the way, are run by dudes. And I got to imagine, like, seriously, like, if you're a guy, like, let's just run the exercise. You're in a marketing room, and I said, all right, guys, I'm thinking about a new ad campaign here at Athleta. Penny Nance, you run marketing for us. So what I'm thinking is we come out and support us. Doesn't somebody raise the hand and say, Mark or Joe or whatever the CEO's name, hey, that's not really helpful to women. Like at some point, a guy probably is making a decision about how to screw women, and yet no one's like, I can't believe that they've gotten away with this. It's a bunch, like the whole thing to me is fascinating from a marketing angle.
Let's finish the exercise. In that same room, they're like, okay, the campaign's going to be, I'm going to put a dude in a women's bra and in women's athletic clothes, and I'm going to try to sell it to them by that. I think that's a great idea. And that's literally what they do. And so never mind that like female models.
Doesn't the Penny Nance in there go, hey, Bob,
no, because Penny Nances aren't allowed on their boards. People like me and people like you, Sean, don't get those board
All right, so
jobs.
why not let's go down the list of the board and go after these women and say, why are you standing up for, I mean, I get, like, there's got to be a weak link in somebody to say, like, for the same reason that it happened, right? So there was a waterfall when they were doing Title IX, which enough women stood up and said, enough. We're willing to fight for our rights. The same thing with the Me Too movement. All these women got together and said, enough, okay? Why don't we now stand up and say, look at some of these women on boards and say, why aren't you, because the same pressure that's getting them to cave one way should actually get them to cave back the right way.
Well, I think the answer is a little bit different. I feel like boycotts are so difficult. I mean, I think about Target
but
and
exposing them.
Well, sure, and exposing who are on the boards. Is that what you're saying? Like, these are the
basically
people that sit on the board
find Mary Smith, who's on the board of Athleta, and then literally going after Mary Smith and saying, stand up for women, Mary Smith, or something like that. But like, to your point, I get the boycott piece. Like, that's, conservatives have never done that really well.
We're not good at it. We're good at boycotts, but we're not good at boycotts, but the problem is DEI is so infiltrated in corporate world, and we should have never let that happen. It did happen. But I think, Sean, that the bigger issue is that conservatives, unilaterally disarmed in coming up against those corporate boards. We didn't want to be on the boards, or maybe we didn't ask loudly enough to be on the boards of museums and on the boards of corporations. Now, what I think should happen is we have to demand those board spots.
Okay.
And
I like your angle too. Yeah. I get that. That makes sense. I like that because
you have to be in the room to make the decision to raise your hand and say that's a terrible idea.
That's 100% right. Though I just want to, before we go, I think one of the things that's interesting to me is we got this big reconciliation bill. And we're talking about mandatory spending and taxes and extending those. And James Blair was on the show, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, on Friday. Great understanding of the bill from him. And I was like, dude, we need to replicate you and get you out there. But he's running through all these other actions that are in there in terms of like the border. And one of the other things he brought up was sort of the transgender stuff and the surgeries. And I didn't realize that was in there. And so what do we need to know about this, and how big of a deal is it?
It's a huge deal. I mean, and do you talk to you about Planned Parenthood while I was at it? I mean, there's a lot in this bill.
What do we need to know how about this? Let me put this back on you. If I'm a conservative who cares about transgender, life issues, etc., what do I need to know that's in this bill that I should care about?
You need to know that the federal government has been spending your money through Medicaid to pay for transgender surgeries, cross-sex hormones, and have been giving to the tune of $700 million a year to Planned Parenthood, who not only is the nation's largest abortion provider, but also is the second largest propagator of cross-sex hormones to kids. So, and adults. So the issue is suddenly when the time is ripe and basically the speaker's looking through the couch cushions of the nation trying to find change and ways to cut in order to get this bill done, Congress is suddenly listening. And we've said to them, this is a waste of taxpayer dollars. And so it's in the bill. We are no longer, for 10 years, there will be no funding for abortion or for cross-sex hormones or surgeries. This is all comes through Medicaid. And that's what the left means when they say that, they're messing with Medicaid. No, they're just no longer having waste, fraud,
Why
and
only 10 years,
in Medicaid.
Why only 10 years? Well, I don't get that.
I think it has to, I don't know why, honestly. I don't have a good answer for
Probably
that.
the window. Okay.
I think it has to do, technically speaking, of how they're able to do it. So,
okay. But that if you're a conservative right now and you're on the fence about the big, beautiful bill, this, I think, is a big feather in the cap that says, and I mean, both on the life side and on the transgender side, both of those issues to me are fascinating.
And you'll appreciate a little behind the scenes there. There was a couple of moments there where we didn't know if we were going to get this done. And I'm like, if we can't do this now, I'll tell you later. If we can't get this done, we're never getting this done. And if we don't get this done, we're not supporting this bill. Because you always have people on the left that are Republicans, like sort of the moderate Republicans that don't want to ever do anything that, somehow could be perceived as anti-Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has, and I'm like, by the way, they endorsed all of your opponents. They spent money against you and you want to help them out. Are you kidding me?
This is like PBS. These same people love to talk. They give the speeches. We need to defund this. We need to defund that. And then when the vote comes up, it's like, oh, I had to go to the bathroom.
Can't do that.
I'm so glad you guys kept the pressure on them. I mean, just out of curiosity.
We're scoring this bill, Sean. We're scoring the vote on this bill. This is a now or never situation for conservatives to stop funding evil things. Like, if they want to do that, they need to go raise their own money the way all of us do. We're out pounding the pavement, trying to, talk to our donors. They should do the same. We should not, they are not entitled to our taxpayer dollars. They're forcing Americans to pay for services, to pay for things that we find abhorrent, and it needs to end, and it will end.
Last question. Will you name names? Will you tell me any of these people who they are?
I am trying to remember, honestly. It's the normal, like, sort of moderate Republicans that came up, and I have a tweet. I'll retweet it so you all can see it.
All right,
so look on my X.
Yeah.
There's a member from New York, one from Pennsylvania. It's the same guys that are, always the problem.
Yeah, that always talk tough. Anyway, Penny Nance, Concerned Women for America. Thanks for leading the charge. I'm glad. I mean, it's cool to know, like, you guys were fighting this before it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Unfortunately, it isn't fun to be on the front end of that kind of thing, and it's not fun to be right, but we will always do the right thing. And
I think it's fun to be right.
Thank you for your friendship and your support, Sean.
You bet, Penny Nance. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
All right, guys, great show. We've got a lot more coming up. Go to SeanSpicer.com. Sign up. We'll be back here tomorrow with another great show. Thanks for being with us to kick off your week. See you tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.